I've turned the recording on. We won't do anything that is between us until the meeting starts. We won't keep that on the record until the meeting starts, which will be very shortly. Are you ready, Dick?
No.
Richard?
No. I don't know how to get his.
Let me send you his again and see if that works.
How many folks are we expecting?
At least 16.
Okay.
How's that? That's still Travis.
Bill Travis.
Are you sure you didn't send me Travis's?
I was pretty sure I had sent you the right one, but you had Tim's up just earlier when we first started our rehearsal.
Wolken's is saved as Travis.
Really?
No,
Tim, why don't you send it to Richard directly?
I would be glad to just do Travis's presentation.
Yeah, there you go. You'd appreciate that.
Can you bring it up, Richard, or do you want him to send it to you?
you need to send it. It's all, there's no, it was saved under a different name.
Can you do that quick, Tim?
Yep.
And I will start chatting with these participants to tell them we'll be on board in a minute. Well, I guess I have to admit them actually. So, Karen, how do you feel about starting first?
I'm fine, whichever you want.
We have quite a few on right now. Hi, folks. We have a small technical glitch happening right now, but we will be starting very shortly. I'm busy putting all of you on so we can see you. We'll start the audio for each of you when Karen and Tim have finished their presentations. So let me just introduce myself. I'm Dave Munger. I'm the Executive Director Emeritus, which just means I'm retired from the Council of Neighbors and Organizations. Richard Strasbaugh is here too. Richard's going to wave his hand, so those of you who haven't met him know who he is. He's our Chief Executive Officer now. And just a reminder that our webcast will be recorded and be available for review by anyone who wants to. Probably about 24 hours after this session. We will go through the presentations of Karen Palus and Tim Wolken. Karen's the director of Colorado Springs Department of, I'm not sure it's department, of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services, I think. And Tim is the director of El Paso County's Department of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. I think I have that right. Did I get that right, Tim?
Sounds great, Dave. Thanks.
Thank you. Then we will offer you all a chance to ask some questions. I have some questions that I would like to ask. We will allow the two speakers to ask questions of each other, although I know they communicate quite a bit, so there's probably nothing they haven't asked each other. On the other hand, if it's like our last speakers, you may want to give each other a hard time, as they did with regard to infrastructure and roads, that sort of thing. All in good fun, actually. And then our speakers will get to make some final comments, and we will wrap up at that point. So let me get people's. I'm going to ask those of you who haven't yet given us your videos to do that if you're willing. No pressure at all, though, if you'd rather not do that.
Hi, Christine.
And I think we are about ready. Okay. This is a pretty good turnout. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here. As I said, I'm Dave Munger. I'm the moderator of this session. And I think we will start with Karen. Karen, do I need to say more about you, or would you like to say something more about you?
I think you're good, Dave. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you all for being here. Really appreciate the opportunity to kind of share a little bit about our department and several of the projects and things that we're doing besides COVID-19. So Dave mentioned earlier that Tim and I stay in pretty close contact. We've probably had more contact lately as we've been discussing what's open and what's closed and such. So I'm sure both of us will share a little bit of, about that today. As Dave mentioned, I'm the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services Director for the City of Colorado Springs, and it's been a pleasure of mine to serve for about 8 years this coming June. So it's been a lot of fun, a lot of great projects, a lot of great people that we have the fortunate opportunity to work with. So I'll quickly share. Richard, do you want to bring up my slides real quick, and I'll run through those with the group? So one of the things we say as a department is that we truly are a legacy of bold vision, meaning that vision came from General Palmer, and community impact. And so we continue to move through with those statements and those capacities day in, day out. And so Richard, if you go to the next slide. You'll see from General Palmer's, oh, back one, General Palmer's initial dedication of 3 key parks within our city. Go ahead, back one. Oh, other way. There you go. Nope. You're going too fast. Stop
Sorry.
on the one that says today's parks. One more forward. There it's going. Today's park system. So as you can see from our city's origination with General Palmer to where we are today, over 16,000 acres of parkland out there, 137 neighborhood parks, 3 disc golf courses, over 300,000 trees, 99 pieces of public art, and 7 skate parks, and a whole lot of things in between. So lots of variety and lots of opportunities for our community to enjoy the outdoors and to recreate. So go ahead to the next slide. Next one, Richard. There you go. Oh, one back. It's going too fast for you. So this is the way we're, nope. All right, forward one. There you go. Park system, this is how we're organized now. If you go back one, Richard, you'll see all the different operations and such that we offer. Still back one. There you go. You'll see the difference between recreation, administration, our enterprises. We do have 3 enterprises within the city park system. Our cultural services and public art are all part of our operation. Forestry, all the native right-of-ways and street trees and park trees fall under that. Design and development, a key part of what we do and how we move forward, as well as our parks maintenance and operations. So you see all those variety of things that we do there. Go ahead to the next slide. This is our overall park system budget. You'll see general fund is the blue section to the right. You'll see TOPS, which is our Trails Open Space and Parks tax. Also, CTF stands for Conservation Trust Fund. So when you play the lottery, if you don't win, it's okay because your park system wins. So I always encourage folks to play often and frequently and play responsibly though as well. You'll see some of our grants and gift trust funds that we receive from partners and donors, our capital improvement funds we receive from the city, and also our special improvement maintenance districts, which are some of the areas that we operate in some of the communities like up in the Briargate area or in Old Colorado City. We've got 7 of those throughout the city. And then our enterprise funds, which obviously you can see is a very large part of our operations with just about an overall $56 million for the entire operation for the city. Move forward one. So COVID response. I know I've been sending out a lot of COVID distractions to keep people's minds off of COVID as it relates to how we're responding within the city. But just to kind of share a little bit about what's open and what's closed. Tim and I have a little different operation, and there are some things that we are in different phases on as we open and go through from stay at home to safer at home. So one of our goals, and been very fortunate in El Paso County as well, that we've been able to keep all of our facilities predominantly open as it relates to parks, trails, and open spaces. However, most of our indoor facilities are still closed, and all of those are community centers, ice skating rinks, a lot of our performance areas in our museums are all still closed, as well as our pools that are operated by the YMCA are still closed. We are limited in terms of any gathering. So the large events and large activities that we typically support and manage for our community are currently on hold. Most of them have been canceled through the month of May, and a good portion of June. We're still in the wait and see as it relates to July. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that we'll have some good news and start to be able to congregate together in larger groups than 10 and playing activities with others than within our family. So one of the other areas that are canceled at this time is all of our sports and therapeutic recreation programs. So our TR folks are a big part of our vulnerable population that's out there. So currently those programs are being held virtually And if you want a big pick-me-up on a Friday, come to one of their Friday virtual dance parties and you will just have a hoot. It's a lot of fun. The kids are having a great time, and they theme it out each week. So I'll give you a little intel for myself, but last Friday was the crazy hair day. It was the first day that my hair salon was open. So I got my hair done while we participated in the crazy hair day. So it was a lot of fun out there. Had a really, really good time. Our Pikes Peak America's Mountain has remained open. We do finally have a facility open and available as far as gift shops and snacks and stuff, and that will be at the Crystal Reservoir Gift Shop. The areas at Glen Cove and at the Summit are currently still not available, and that is per the Rangers orders until June 1st. So more to come on that, but we are open and available to the top as long as the weather cooperates. And I think they were getting a little snow up there today, so we'll see how that goes, but you're going to hear a little bit about some of the projects up there as well. Also, both of our golf courses are open. Rockledge Ranch Historic Site is open, and our cemeteries are still currently open, although unfortunately we have had to offer some modified services. So a little difference to do a memorial service as it relates to non-COVID related scenarios, but having to do that through Stream and Zoom for a lot of families. And so we're thankful for a lot of our partners that have been able to help with that. So those are some of the areas we have currently open and closed. We are working very closely with the health department, as you can imagine, to be able to move forward opening, especially our summer camps and our summer programs. Those are really important to our families. We want to make sure we have an opportunity to be able to provide that this summer. So we're working on some modified approaches to that. So look forward to that as we move forward. So that's it on COVID response. We'll go on to the next slide. Wanted to share with you a couple of key projects and things that are happening in the city and where you as citizens can get involved and engaged and appreciate the support. One of those is our Urban Forest Master and Management Plan, and that's been going on for some time. We had support, thankfully, just a few years back for our urban canopy analysis to kind of know a benchmark of where we're at, and that was funded, thankfully, by the Lyda Hill Foundation. And this particular master plan we're moving forward with is being funded through our own dollars here within the city. And right now it's available online through May 18th. So you'll see the little link at the bottom. I believe Dave and Richard will share these out with everybody, and we'll be able to provide that information. But go online, take the survey, and it's a great way to get involved in our urban canopy master management plan. Next slide. Another big part of what we're up to is sesquicentennial. It's our 150th year, so we may have a test at the end to see who can spell that. I always spell it 150. It's so much simpler. But we'll have multiple exhibits coming online at our museums. We have the COS 150 Tree Challenge, which is our goal to have 18,071 trees planted by 2021. And just so you know, there is no penalty if we go over. In fact, it would be appreciated. So we're encouraging citizens this summer as you're starting to plant your trees. And if anybody's been to a nursery over the last couple of weekends, lots of folks are out there buying trees and buying shrubs and such. It's the one essential service that's been open, and we're definitely taking advantage of it. So we encourage you, if you do buy a tree and you plant a tree in your yard, to please go in online on our website and fill that out and share that information. We're also just about 1 year out from the 150th. So this year at Glen Erie, depending on how the visitation will be allowed, we anticipate doing an event with Mayor Suthers on July 31st, 2020. So more information to come on that. You'll see the link and the information in there for the tree challenge. So I encourage you to get out there and plant some trees this summer. Next slide. Another big project, great opportunity to get involved. And this one only has 1 day left. So I encourage you, if you haven't filled out the survey, you haven't gone in online and looked at the 3 new master plans for Acacia, Antlers, and Alamo Square, I encourage you to do so. Great design that's come out of the last year working with the community to be able to help us tell the story of our history, but also plan for the future within our community for our downtown historic park. So you'll see the link on there. Go on. There's an interactive information about each of the designs, how they came together. We've had over 4,000 different individuals participate in this effort, so it's been some great community engagement throughout. And it is the last day today to get out there and take that survey if you haven't already. Next slide. 2B projects. I first want to thank you all and thank all the voters here in Colorado Springs who supported. This was a Tabor retention project for $7 million. And I won't go through all of them, but you'll have them available to you. Many are listed below, between historic parks like Acacia and Alamo, to Monument Valley, to Sport Court replacement in Thorndale and Boulder, and improvement to our trail system, as well as many, many other projects in between. You'll see us moving through those and highlighting those as we move along. Next slide. One example is Panorama Park. We just finished this master plan. You may or may not be familiar with this location, but it was a pretty much small playground area, pavilion, and nothing else to go. And thanks to all the community involvement, we've had tremendous support from the RISE Coalition. A lot of partners came together. Was the design and the the community engagement was done through our Trust for Public Lands. And so that was really fun to have them be a part of this project from the beginning. And I think that the community has done a wonderful job of really bringing all the most important spaces and places into that park, and really becomes more of a community park elements throughout in a very large neighborhood park for our community. So next slide. Park system infrastructure. This is not the best picture, huh? This doesn't get you really excited about our park system, but what it does is it gets me really excited about having a benchmark in time of really where we are as a department, what are our deficiencies, where are our needs, how do we need to go forward, what are those numbers to help us go forward, and what do those projects look like. And so we have entered into an agreement to work forward on a infrastructure analysis with the Jacobs Company. And this is an organization that did a very similar study for the entire city and county of Denver. So their Denver parks were included. They were instrumental in the work related to our own stormwater deficiencies and such. And so we've been very fortunate. We've been working with them over the last about 4 months, and we look forward to having a really great report that becomes a tool we can use from here on into the future to really understand where those inadequacies are and how do we plan for those improvements and what those numbers look like moving forward. Next slide. Pikes Peak Summit Complex. If you haven't had a chance to get up to the top of Pikes Peak, I do so now before all those tourists are allowed to start coming back. It's a great way to get up there and see. This is the rendition of the facility, what it'll look like in the end. If you'll go to the next slide, Richard. Here is it under construction. So just because visitors haven't been able to get to the summit, we have been able to keep construction going not only outside but inside. We actually poured concrete last week, so we're continuing on those efforts. If you haven't seen any of the videos related to this construction, it is a really an amazing logistical project to get involved in and be a part of. So I encourage you to go onto our website, check out all the videos that are available on the peak. It's just incredible to see this construction come together. Our partners with GE Johnson and our designers with RTA Architects have just done a phenomenal job. And I look so forward to cutting the ribbon on that property. We just need Mother Nature to continue to cooperate with us, right? Heavy winds and snow and stuff make it a little bit more challenging, but we've been keeping those folks safe inside, and they're doing great work up there. Next slide, Richard. One of the most recent projects that we completed I wanted to share with you is our Garden of the Gods new overlook and restroom. We knew the restroom would get lots of visitation and expected that, but the overlook has become the hotspot. And we actually had to close it during COVID right now to not allow the crowds that continue to go up on top, but it has become the place for lots of photos with the kissing camels in the background, and also becoming a really nice wedding venue once we can get things back open and operational. Who knew anybody would want to have their wedding over a restroom in the Garden of the Gods, but it is an incredible view and a great space. I'm really proud of the team that worked on that. That was also RTA as well. They did a phenomenal job working with our planning and design team. We've got a nice little amphitheater down there to gather for nature walks and really fun stuff. So we look forward to it as it grows in and over the next summer months. So next slide. And last but not least, I wanted to leave you with this, because this will give you a great COVID distraction if you haven't had a chance to already see our Corral Bluffs property, our open space way out on the east side of town, was part of a major fossil discovery in Colorado Springs. And so the show by NOVA is called Rising of the Mammals. And if you haven't seen it, I really encourage you to do so. It's an incredible show. It really highlights the importance of this property, not only to our community as an open space, but to science. It was ranked second in the most important scientific discoveries in 2018. So if that tells you anything, I encourage you to get out there. Also, when Denver Museum of Nature and Science gets to open back up, I encourage you to go up and check out their exhibit. We'll be bringing some of that exhibit here to Colorado Springs as well, in a Colorado Springs Pioneers Museum. So lots of great things happening within our park system. I feel privileged to work with so many incredible friends groups and such, and volunteers that really help us do the things we do day in, day out. And we couldn't do half of what we do without their generous support. So I look forward to the questions and dialogue coming up, and thank you for your time today and taking time to hear what's going on in Colorado Springs Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services. Back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Karen. That was great. I have some other questions about that, but I particularly like hearing about the rising of the mammals. So next, and thank you for taking all this time with us. Just so all of you who've joined us a little later know, we'll take questions after Mr. Wolken's presentation. If you have a question and you want to be sure I don't miss you, there should be a button that allows you to raise your hand. It'll just show a hand underneath your screen that I'm watching, or you can send me a chat message. So there's an opportunity to do that through the software. If you click on a participant's on my video, for instance, you can, or my name on the participant list, you can chat me. Or you can send me a text message at 719-337-5838. And now I've taken, 8 or 9 minutes from poor Tim. Tim, thank you so much for joining us.
Dave, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tim Wolken. I'm Director of Community Services for El Paso County. I'm starting my 16th year at El Paso County, and it's been an enjoyable ride all the way through. Part of my responsibility with El Paso County is to oversee the county's park system. And I don't know, Richard, if we have the slides there, we can put up, please. Thank you. Just a bit of background on El Paso County Parks. We were founded in 1971, so this is going to be our 50th year in 2021, ironically, celebrating also an anniversary with the city as well. And so, to me, at least, we've come an awful long ways in the last 50 years in regards to El Paso County Parks. And if we go to the next slide, please. I should add as well, when El Paso County started its park system, the original plan was to develop small neighborhood parks throughout the county. And what the commissioners quickly recognized by 1976 was it was very difficult to be able to maintain small urban parks in the size of county that we have. And so they elected to change to a regional park system in 1976. And so what we attempt to do is to provide larger open space and recreation parks that really are value added to what cities and towns and special districts and metro districts provide at this point. So in most cases, you're probably familiar with the larger parks that we manage: Black Forest, Bear Creek, Fox Run, the Paint Mines. We're always trying to add value to what's already being provided in the cities and towns, and hopefully, connecting our trail systems to those, having larger events taking place at the regional parks, where there might be smaller events at some of the more neighborhood parks. And so I really think overall it really has worked out very nicely here, and I hope you do as well, in regards to being able to provide just a wide variety of park and recreation opportunities through the various providers that we have. In regards to our mission, under the first bullet, we attempt to develop, as I said earlier, regional park trails and open space. Typically, we're trying to maintain about 80% of that as open space in the respective parks and about 20% being developed. When I say being developed, we're talking about, potential athletic fields, playgrounds, picnic pavilions, dog parks, those types of things. But leaving a large portion of the park being undeveloped, except potentially for trail systems. And I think that's true of most of our parks. We have a couple that we've been developing recently that are more athletic in nature, but in general, that's really been kind of the formula that we've been using over the last number of years. So I think it's been appreciated. As we do polling with our citizens, we hear an awful lot about trails and open space. And so we attempt to provide those within the county park system. Under the second bullet, maintaining areas of open space land that have unique natural environments. I think the paint mines is a good example of that. Ironically, the paint mines has been kind of overwhelmed during the COVID issue. And so we've been encouraging people to visit other sites, but we're happy that it's very popular. And so it's got that unique natural environment, but most of our parks do. And that's actually one of the kind of things that I've enjoyed the most about overseeing the county park system is the wide variety that we have. From Jones Park in the west, up in the mountains, all the way out to the paint mines in the east, and then a variety of different types of facilities in between. So that's been a lot of fun. Under the third bullet, we do provide education programs through our Bear Creek and Fountain Creek nature centers. I think both of those centers do a wonderful job of offering a variety of programs for preschool through senior citizen. We are in the process of hopefully developing a third nature center, calling it the Northern Nature Center. Probably going to be a Fox Run Regional Park. We've done a feasibility study, and I think that's where it will end up. And so we're excited to launch the capital campaign to raise the funds for that. And it's always been our dream to have a Black Forest, essentially, nature center. And it's been in our master plan for quite some time. So we look forward to that. Major community events and festivals, we either sponsor those or provide facilities for those. One of the big ones that we oversee is the county fair, which happens every year. When I first arrived here, I thought the county fair probably, was over a day and involved a few hundred people. Actually, it's over 8 days and involves 25,000 people. So it's a pretty big deal. It takes quite a bit of time to be able to organize all of that. I'm afraid that our fair is likely going to struggle this year with the COVID issue. So we're still awaiting additional information from the governor's office on that. But most county fairs up and down the Front Range are having to probably adapt to COVID, unfortunately. And then finally, tourism destinations and experiences. I always want to say that, we do a lot of warm and fuzzy things, but we also generate money as well. And so bringing sales tax into the community, a variety of events occur in our regional parks that bring tourism from the outside in, which is great. And so generating sales tax to support the county is a good thing as well. Next slide, please. So just a brief overview of county parks and what we do. About 8,000 acres of regional parks and open space at this point, 130 miles of trails. Hopefully many of those are connecting up into cities and special districts and other types of trail systems as well. We've got, I would think, have one of the better trail systems in the state of Colorado, in our region, if not the country, which is great. I talked about the nature centers. Within our regional parks, we have a variety of picnic shelters, athletic fields, variety of courts as well, and so we're excited about that. Most all of those can be used for private events. So we have many people getting married within our county park systems, lots of social events, graduations, all of those as well. Mentioned the county fairgrounds operations. The last two bullets I do want to touch on. We went through some really difficult financial times back in 2007 and 2009. So we reached out to the community and said, really support what you love. And so, volunteer. And so we have 30,000 volunteer hours annually, which we greatly appreciate, and honestly couldn't manage the park system without our volunteers. That's helping to manage nature centers, overseeing friends groups and parks, and just doing a variety of really wonderful work within our park system. So we're really very pleased to have those involved. And then finally, those volunteers also help us generate about $200,000 a year on top of what we receive from the county to be able to manage the park system. And that goes right back into managing the system on a daily basis. So we greatly appreciate that as well. Next slide, Richard. Just a quick slide for you in regards to where county parks are at and the variety. As I mentioned earlier, it's great going from Jones Park, up in at least the foothills, and then all the way out to Paint Mines Interpretive Park out in the Eastern Plains, and then far south as well to Clear Spring Ranch, which we manage in cooperation with the city, and then a variety of parks up on the northern side as well, within the Black Forest area. And so it's truly amazing the variety of park facilities that we have available. It's a real credit to the volunteers, the leadership, the staff that came before me as well, and all the work that's been put into it since then. Next slide, please. Then I just wanted to give you a quick update on a few of the higher level projects that we have upcoming in 2020, maybe some into 2021. It's our hope to open up Pineries Open Space, which is a 1,200 acre site at the corner of Shoup and Vollmer. I'm hoping the grand opening is going to be on June 27th. We're wrapping up a few of the final details on that, and hopefully the weather will cooperate as well, and we won't have COVID issues. But look forward to that. We've had lots of use in the Black Forest during the COVID, and having an additional facility available not only now, but in the future as well will be great. It'll be primarily an open space site that'll have parking, has a restroom facility, and about 8 miles of trail initially, likely additional trail systems after that as well in phase 2. But I think it'll be a great equestrian park, and those that want to go out for a really good hike, 8 miles, if you want to do the entire loop, that'll be a good workout for you. At Bear Creek Regional Park, 2 major projects going on. We're putting in 12 pickleball courts. Karen and her group put in 15 at Monument Valley a few years ago, and they've been extremely popular. And so the pickleball folks came over to us as well and said, we'd like you to have you help us do the same within Bear Creek Regional Park. And we had 4 tennis courts that were not in good condition. And so we left 4 there, but elected to take out those other 4 and put in the 12 pickleball courts. Hopefully those will be open sometime this fall. And then restroom replacement as well. The current one's there, been there since about 1970. I'm sure it was a good restroom back in 1970, not so much now. And so we're going to demo that restroom and put in a new one, which I think will be a good use of Bear Creek Regional Park, which is our most used park that we have within our system. Game Ranch Open Space is about 3 miles east of the city of Fountain. It was given to us by the Alexander Kane Estate. It's about a 400 acre site, beautiful views of Pikes Peak. We're finished the master plan and starting construction on that, hopefully late fall of 2020, that will be open. And I think it'll be a great park for the southern part of El Paso County. Falcon Regional Park Phase 2, as you're likely aware, Falcon area has had a dramatic growth over the last 10 to 15 years. Lots and lots of children out in that area. And so this is going to be a unique park for us. It's more of an athletic park. At this point, we've got several baseball fields and a multi-purpose field. We'll add some additional athletic fields, a restroom facility, playground, and a variety of other things as well. Focused somewhat on children, but also an equestrian parking area and equestrian riding area as well. So hopefully a little bit for everybody, but certainly a dramatic growth area in the county itself. And so we're fortunate to be able to launch on phase 2 and just received a grant from Great Outdoors Colorado to support phase 2 of that project. Talked about the Northern Nature Center. Be a couple of years before we probably launch on construction on that, but great to get it started and look forward to good community support for that. Our County Parks Master Plan was last updated in 2013. That's kind of the roadmap for county parks and what we anticipate doing over the next 7 to 10 years. And so we anticipate updating that in 2021. There'll be a variety of public input on that, and survey work being done. And so that'll take about the entire year to be able to do. But once that's in place, then that'll guide us over the next, like I said, 7 to 10 years. So I'm excited to launch on that again. And then finally, our 50th anniversary in 2021, there'll be a variety of events that'll take place to celebrate that. We'll have some legacy projects that we'll complete as well. And so we're thrilled. We've been there 50 years, and hopefully we'll be here for another 50 as well. In regards to COVID, I think Karen did a nice job of covering that. In most cases, most of our facilities are open, usually being adapted somewhat. Unfortunately, the playgrounds certainly are not open at this point due to the governor's order, as well as picnic shelters. We hope those will reopen here relatively soon. I know it's been a challenge for those of you that have activities within county parks, the same picnic on the same weekend for the last decade. So we apologize for that those are not able to take place. But hopefully in June we'll be able to begin offering those pavilions again for outdoor activities. Dave, I think that's a quick update for me.
Very good. Thank you very much, Tim. This was a terrific start, I think. And I think it was stimulating to a lot of people. Christine, I think you have a question. Hold on, there you go.
I was just curious how we're going to keep people from pillaging our wonderful fossils in the amazing park that you guys have been working on.
Thanks, Christine. Great question. Couple of things we've, and I guess have really managed in terms of the property is one, we've been working on some new fencing in and around the property. We've got some really good neighbors that keep a good eye on the property for us as well, and make sure we're aware if there's any folks kind of hanging around or doing things they're not supposed to be doing. The other is we are involving some IT technical type things out there as well on the open space, and won't go into details, but you never know when you might be monitored. So I encourage folks to behave. We did have already some treasure hunters out there, especially after the everything hit the paper for a while. We were having folks come and understand. I will tell you one of the things about this and about the fossils that you can find, you are not going to have any idea what you're looking at. So that's the one good thing. It's not like it's right there laying in the open, or maybe it is, but the scientists definitely took some time to figure it out. And so those of us with not that expectation, will take some time to figure that out as well. But we are trying to manage that effectively, and we'll start to look at a management plan and a master plan for that site once we finish some additional acquisitions. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I'm not sure how many people want to keep a bit of fossilized poop on their desk anyway.
Or a bean pod, any of those kind of things.
Exactly.
It's just incredible that it filled this amazing 60 billion years worth of information they never had before. So that's what's so fascinating about all the finds out there.
Yeah, my dad was an archaeologist before World War II, and I know he'd be excited about this too. I think it's exciting to know that this is right in our backyards. I do have a question. Both of you have talked about things that you have done together or cooperatively. Could you expand a bit on how the two systems, especially for parks, work together?
Sure. Tim, you want to take the lead on that one?
Yeah, I'll start. One thing we just did recently, which we've been doing for a number of years, is having a joint city-county park board meeting. That occurs in March of every year. So we bring our park boards together, and really is a great activity. It allows us to be able to provide updates on various projects that we're doing, but also hopefully involves the park boards meeting with each other. We try to get them split up in the tables so they get the chance to meet each other and kind of talk about regional issues as well. And so certainly we do that. Cooperate on our master plans. We share staff on both of the master plan committees, and to ensure that what we're planning jives well with what the city has in mind too, so we're not duplicating any type of facilities. Gosh knows we don't have enough money to go around, and so it's good to ensure that we're planning appropriately on that. And Karen and I, and then all of our staff, speak on a very regular basis as well. Whenever issues come up, and there's kind of a trails group that meets on a regular basis. Others talk about open space, and so I think it works out very well for collaborative projects and the cooperation as we go along.
And I would like to mention too, I know Tim won't take credit for this, but he deserves it. He has been instrumental in bringing all of the directors or anyone involved in parks, recreation, and such throughout the county together on pretty much, it's been, I guess, a quarterly no, it's biannual. I'm not sure. It depends on the year, but it's been really helpful because it has a lot of the land managers and different leadership and their staff that are coming together to talk about issues. And a great example is we've talked through drones when drone use was really hot and heavy, and trying to understand what those rules look like for a park system. Also, as it relates to e-bikes, we had a lot of conversations with all the different managers around that as folks were putting things together. Because a great example for Tim and I is, you don't know when you're on the Greenway Trail when it transitions to the Santa Fe Trail, and whether it's a city, county, nobody really cares or needs to know it. They just want to be able to enjoy their ride. And so working together like that and bringing all those folks together on a regular basis has really been instrumental in making sure we're coming together to put policies and make procedures that really can affect our entire community. And how do we do that together and do that well? So thanks, Tim.
And speaking of the e-bikes, didn't you all have a deal on using those recently?
We were supposed to, and then COVID struck. So we will be back at it. We've been getting our friends at Medicine Wheel did a survey, so they've been gathering some information. Some of the other folks with the Bureau of Land Management have been gathering information through a survey. We'll eventually put our survey together, but our goal initially for us was to bring all the different thoughts, ideas, and interests together in one place, or so we thought we were going to do at that time, to really help folks educate, inform, and understand. We found through a lot of our conversations, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So our goal was to bring those folks together and then construct a survey that would gather good data for our community.
Great. I've been trying to watch your various screens to be sure I'm not missing somebody who has a question. I haven't seen one recently. So if you have one, raise your hand or send me a text. I wondered if you could sort of expand upon my question about how your departments work together. Are there important ways in which the two departments differ? Maybe I should ask Tim to start with that.
I'll let you.
Certainly as we talked, that we're a regional park system. And so we typically are developing larger parks, even though the city has those as well too, especially with their TOPS program. We don't do an awful lot of athletic recreation programming. We provide facilities for that, but we don't provide youth leagues and other types of classes and programs in that particular area, which I know Karen and her staff certainly do. So that would be a difference for us. Our focus is more nature centers, environmental programming, even though we do the county fair as well. And so we do delve into a variety of unique issues. But I think recreation programming, certainly Karen and her group do a lot more than what we do. And I've never heard that from our county leadership saying they'd like to see us do more of that. I think that we've thought that's really what cities and towns should be doing. They're a little closer to, I think, to their citizens maybe than what we might be as a county. And so I think that we've complemented relatively well what cities and towns and metro districts and special districts and many, many others that do programming. And so we've elected not to get into that area much at this point. So those are just a couple of differences that I can think of.
Yeah, Dave, Tim's exactly right. I mean, in terms of the programming aspect, that is still a big part of who we are and what we do in terms of activities. Now, I will tell you, we've been very successful with a lot of partnerships. And so where in the past we might have run significant numbers of soccer programs, we participate with Pride and Rush and some of the others out there to utilize our fields and facilities. So they typically handle more of the competitive side of the sports, where we handle more of the recreational side of the sport. We also have the difference in terms of the cultural services. We run Rockledge Ranch, our historic site, and it is a historic interpretive site. So it's actually living and breathing as it was in 1871 or 2, depending on where you're at and part of the facility. And so we have to tell that story and tell that history and tell that well. And so that's our docents are a big part of that effort, and the Living History Association is one of our partners there. We also have the responsibility of public art, and not everybody knows that over those 99 pieces of public art that are in and around our community are part of our collection, and Matt Mayberry oversees that for us in his role as Cultural Services Director. We also have the responsibility of forestry, and so that is a little different in terms of having that responsibility of street trees, park trees, and then working with all of our native right-of-ways. Additionally, we have the special improvement maintenance districts I mentioned earlier, but those are areas of town that are then represented by a special district that pays for above and beyond service for their potential within their neighborhood, and there's properties that are designed out for that. So those are probably the most significant differences. Other than that, we've got a lot of the same operations, similar challenges and such.
Thanks, Karen and Tim. Judith Rice Jones has been texting me a little bit. Judith, did you want to make a comment?
Oh, well, which one? Oh, wait. Did you unmute me? Okay. The question is which one of my questions? First of all, Judy von Alfeld a couple of months ago made a presentation both to the city and county park boards, and I believe to the county planning commission. She got her PhD in the ecology of the Black Forest, and her idea was that, am I still there? I'm disappearing.
You are.
Yeah, you're still there.
Her idea was that before all the open space is gone, that we have a series, I'm going to call them green belts, but they'd be more golden belts, to preserve a bit of the shortgrass prairie that was characteristic of both the city and county before the two were developed. Personally, I thought it was a brilliant idea. And so I'm asking if either Karen or our county parks director feel that there's any possibility at all of that happening.
Tim, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
First of all, Judy was one of the founders of the county park system. And so which we greatly appreciate her support, and she's been involved probably almost for the entire 50 years that we've been here. So we've had a chance to work with Judy on a variety of projects and occasions. I thought it was a great idea as well too. Part of the challenge that the county has, we do not currently have a dedicated funding source to purchase open space. And so in most cases, we're dealing with developers, and when they come before us to present a development, if we see an opportunity where we can secure some open space in the development process, we will do that. Either our choices are either to accept property or accept fees in lieu of property. In most cases, we take the fees, but not always. And so if there's opportunities within Judy's plan that we can participate in that by accepting property rather than fee, we're happy to do that. Also working with developers directly in regards to maintaining open space within their developments, whether it's even not county owned. You know, we certainly hear from our citizens regularly that it really makes their developments more valuable if they do more of a cluster development with open space within that development. And so we encourage those to do that. And when they appear before the Park Advisory Board, we continually say to them that we really like to see that type of development. When it's a PUD, they have to do at least 10%, but like to see them even do better than that. And overall, the developers are really pretty open to that. And I think that they've recognized, that that's valuable to their development as well. So it helps the environment, but also supports financially their development too. So that's kind of how we've been involved. And Judy did present to us probably 4 or 5 months ago now at this point. So we have just kept that plan in place. These things move slowly, unfortunately, but as we see developments come through, we will certainly take a look at the plan itself and see if we can be supportive in that area.
Great. We've had a couple people join us, so I'm going to reiterate that if you have a question for our speakers, please either raise your hand digitally using the software or send me a text. You can chat to me on the software, or you can send me a text at 719-337-5838. Judith, I think you had another suggestion or question that you wanted to raise.
So many. I'm a member of a group that now is 8,000 strong called the Cooperative Gardens Commission. It started on the East Coast. And the idea behind it is that during the pandemic, and we've already seen food shortages, this is a great time to get more people doing gardening in their backyards or community gardens or parklands. And there's a strong feeling that this is a way to build community. It gives some people something real to do while they're quarantined at home, and it produces food. It's of great benefit. And we've seen, because it's a national movement, we've seen a lot of action in some places. The city of in British Columbia, the city of Victoria, even went so far as to dedicate some of their parklands and park staff to growing vegetable starts to make this easier. And again, I'm wondering if Tim and Karen, if you see any possibility of extending edible gardens on city or county parklands, not just for the pandemic, but also for the future, since we know that local food is fresher and healthier and closer to home. And it's becoming more important in other parts of the United States.
Very much so. Judith, I think, Tim, I'll take this one at the beginning and then turn it back over to you. But I know Judith and I have had these conversations quite a bit, and it is something that we're definitely supportive of. We work very closely with the different groups that provide gardens and or have assisted with our community gardens in and around our community. We've got a very successful one up at Old Farm. Each of our community centers have their own gardens as well. And so when organizations and individuals are interested in doing a garden, we try to help and support those efforts. But it does need, and she's aware, I think Judith, you're aware of this as well, that we do need that community champion that's going to help lead that charge and help keep that garden going. And we've seen the success of that, and unfortunately we've seen some failures around that as well. And so any way that we can connect with the right folks that want to participate in those activities, we're happy to support those efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah, for us, I would assume we might have the oldest community garden in El Paso County with the Nyman Community Garden. It's got, I think, 120 plots there. They're full at this point for 2020, so glad to report that. And so we did work out a system with them to be able to operate during the COVID as well. And so they'll be planting here relatively soon, so we're happy with that. We also started a second community garden at Fountain Creek Regional Park a couple of years ago, and that's beginning to build at this point. It's probably about a third of the size of the one in Bear Creek. But we're always open to that, but Karen's absolutely right. There needs to be a champion involved in that, and Nyman, who was the garden's named after, was involved for over 30 years, and she really was by far the leader of that garden group. But they've carried on, and now the Char's moved in the community, and so it certainly can be done. But what I've kind of found with community gardens, not only do they produce vegetables, fruits, and all of that, but it's great social activity as well, that people greatly appreciate getting a chance to see each other on a regular basis, talk gardening, but also talk other things as well too. And so it's just a wonderful activity. And we've had gardeners that have been there for the entire time. And so we're very open to additional opportunities within regional parks, provided we can find that group or champion to be able to assume that responsibility.
Great. Well, let me ask another question. I don't see any others waiting just at the time, but don't hesitate to let us know. You both mentioned that a lot of things had to change, as we all can imagine, with coronavirus. I wonder if you could go into a little bit of detail about how that's affected your staff in particular, and do you have concerns for the future with regard to staffing or programs?
Yes, I have concerns.
Go, Tim, go.
Everybody across the country, private and public, obviously have been impacted by this, and we're certainly not the only ones by any means, but it has been a challenge for us. From a programming standpoint, we generate quite a bit of revenue to be able to support our department, and so the last couple of months have been a real struggle for us, and it looks like it'll be ongoing for a while longer as well. The county fair is a great example. It's got a budget of $230,000. If that fair doesn't happen, that certainly impacts people that are involved with that. Once again, an example of many that are occurring across the country as well. I'm pleased to report that, all of our staff is generally, back at work at this point, but still with a 10-person limit rule, it's hard to be able to do much programming at this point. And so that's been a challenge for us. At this point, the county's asked us for a 5 to 7% budget cut. And so we have provided that, and we're actually pretty fortunate that, Karen will talk about this, the cities was larger than that. That may be the first wave. So we'll see how we go along with that. We're watching our friends at the federal government and see how they might be able to help out as well. But, you know, we're in for a bit of a tough time, you know, but because both city and county are relying on sales tax for a variety of our funding, we're not that dramatically different, you know, than other private sectors who are relying on sales tax or sales as well. We just rely on sales tax. And so when the economy goes down, it hurts us as well too. And so what we typically do, and back in 7 through 9, when we had the major funding cuts, is really focus on core services, recognize what our citizens would like to see us offer, reach out to the community and say, you know what, we'd love to be able to do this, but we don't have the funding to be able to do it. You can help us. So it's a bit of a painful process, but I'm really hoping we'll get through this, and hopefully not as long-term as the recent recession was that we had back in 7 through 9.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I can echo several things that Tim said, but I'll share some of the things he didn't say as it relates to city parks and such. Again, with the COVID and our response, you know, our team's really been at the wheel all along. We have very few folks that are not working, and most of those are related to programming and sports activities. And so most of our seasonal staff that were tied up with field supervision for athletics and or programming efforts or learn to skate efforts and such at our indoor facilities. Those folks are not working, but everybody else within the system, all of our full-time staff and all of our maintenance staff are out in the parks and doing their best to keep up with things. A couple of things we're having to deal with as it relates to a lot of the programming efforts, and also in terms of cleanliness and making sure that we're able to meet the standards that are being set. I love the little critter that's on the screen there, Mr. Crow. That's hilarious. We are having to set new standards in terms of the number of children per program with leader. So where we typically might take 15 children per leader, we're looking more in that 10 and keeping them separate. And you know how challenging it is to keep children separate. Not an easy endeavor. And so understanding and how we minimize the exposure to larger groups and larger populations, how we're accepting children and or individuals coming to programs, you know, masks are required at city facilities. So I have my latest one I just got was dropped off. You'll see it's celebrating the 4th of July. So I'm hopeful, Memorial Day and 4th of July. So I'm hopeful we'll be able to enjoy that without them, but I'm prepared if we're not. But having masks on within the facilities, having temperature checks as you're coming in, not only for staff, but for the public. I mean, those are very different dynamics, and people feel very differently about those efforts. Do you ever want to, if you've watched any of the social media posts that we're encouraging people to wear masks, and you will tell people that we have no right to tell them that. You have other people saying, please make it mandatory. So it's an interesting dynamic. And so coming into city facilities over the next, at least the next month or so, we anticipate having to have staff involved in engaging in those activities. So you'll see very different standards. You'll see how we queue, how we take revenue in terms of registrations. All of our golf courses are now strictly online. We are promoting the online for Pikes Peak, America's Mountain. And so again, trying to minimize that interaction and exchange between folks, and then also trying to encourage that physical distance, no matter where you are and what city facility, whether you're indoor or outdoor, we need folks to manage themselves within that distance and be aware. And so that is definitely a challenging environment, as well as we are the one location folks can go right now as parks. And so we've seen increased intake, especially in terms of our neighborhood parks. I mean, that is, we always expect to see bigger crowds on the weekends and stuff in our open spaces and such. It's just just who we are, right, as a community, but our neighborhood parks have been so well used. In fact, I have really enjoyed, that's one of the silver linings I think I've seen in terms of this pandemic, that so many folks have had an opportunity to explore their neighborhood and their neighbors and are getting out and enjoying what's really close to home. And the city of Colorado Springs, thanks to all the great work for folks that came long before I had the opportunity to put those parks in the right places. And so we've got just about 64% of our population has a park within a 10-minute walk. And that's amazing. Not many urban communities can say that. And we're really proud that we can, and we're continuing to make good strides in that. But those are some of the challenges that we're seeing budgetarily. Tim's exactly right. Our first round was 20%. So nothing that community members will feel in terms of activities, but definitely things you may see. So we have reduced some of our native cuttings in terms of our mowing, where we typically have done 3 mows a year. We'll only do 2. We have reduced some of our fertilization. So our guys would prefer to be putting the full amount on. So we're minimizing some of those areas. So again, not direct impacts to community members, but impacts in terms of the quality of what we like to put forward. We will also have significant savings because we are not doing spring sports. By those savings, we're able to put those forward and such, which is just a shame. I hate that those kids are not able to play their sports, especially those that are seniors and such. They were counting on opportunities and things this year. So we're really hopeful we'll get back to youth sports and such very soon. Other cuts that we've made, we did close the city auditorium. It is being utilized as an isolation shelter for our individuals who are experiencing homelessness. So through that partnership, we've made that available, and that site will remain closed throughout the end of the year. We've got savings in terms of some of our activities in terms of programs, but also, again, like Tim mentioned, a significant loss of revenues because those sports and those rentals for facilities and such go a long way. We usually bring in almost $3 million just in our programming side of the house in terms of revenues. And so that is a significant loss about a half of the year. So we've been doing processing a lot of refunds, which has a cost to it as well. But we're hopeful, we're cautiously optimistic. We're planning to be able to come back and do what we've been doing, but we are also looking at ways where we can reduce cost and minimize our expenses, at least for this year. And then we've put a couple of projects on hold based on concerns for limited LART funds. We had 2 significant projects in LART funds, which was another portion of the Garden of the Gods second restroom, and also some significant trail work for Silver Cascade, which is one of our highly visited by our tourist trails within North Cheyenne Canyon. So those are the only 2 things right now. Everything else has a different funding source. We're fortunate of that, and we're continuing to move those projects forward.
Great. That was a terrific answer from both of you. Bruce Hutchison, I think, has a question for one or both of you. And I probably have to turn his voice, there we go.
There.
He's going to show us something.
Hello. Yeah, the paper from May 2nd had the headlines about Springs has a deal for quarry. And I'm a busy person. I did not get a chance to read the whole article and study it in detail. So I was wondering if you could kind of give me a good overview of what it's talking about.
I'd be
And
happy
then-
to.
And then after that, I would like both opinions from both of our guest speakers on the long-term appearance of the scar, of the Pike View scar itself. So, but if you could answer the first question first.
I'd be happy to. Thank you. Great question, and really an amazing project that we've been working on. And this came out of the 2014 City Parks System Master Plan. That property, the property that's up where the scar is called the Pike View Quarry. And so that parcel and those parcels in and around it have been identified as one of the most important properties for us to acquire. on the west side. It helps us to manage and maintain our western backdrop, which has been a goal of this community for many, many years. And so if you've seen our acquisitions over the last several years, we've been able to acquire quite a bit of acreage adjacent to Blodgett Peak most recently, and this property is adjacent to those parcels. And so continuing to bring forward that whole western backdrop in the Foothills Trail, one of our goals as part of our overall master plan as well is to be able to go from Blodgett Peak all the way down the Foothills Trail all the way to Cheyenne Mountain State Park. And so through the last several years, this property has been identified by our TOPS working committee as one of the properties they'd like to acquire. We've been in conversations and such for the last just about 2 years now with the folks that actually own this property, Castle Concrete. And so they have gone through some transitions and exchanges over the last couple of years. And so we finally got to a deal, and let me talk you through it because it's really complicated as a lot of transactions when it comes to real estate are, and there are more properties to it than just the quarry parcel. So let me tell you what we're in the process of doing and how this all fits in. I mentioned the Pikeview quarry. The other quarry further south is what we call the Black Canyon quarry. And there's a couple other names, but it is actually adjacent to the work that's been going on with the Reimagine Waldo. And so one of the goals with this particular property on the south end is could it be a potential trailhead where we don't currently have a trailhead for Waldo Canyon time, and being able to reimagine what that could look like and how those connections could work. It's an amazing property, absolutely stunning. The views are 360 and really could make a great trailhead for our community. So that particular property was not right on our radar. The other one had been in the queue, had been something we had been identifying for quite some time. They ended up coming through kind of as a package deal. So let me walk you through what we're doing. We are going to acquire the Black Canyon first. That's what the city of Colorado Springs has been doing. We are then working with a partner who is the Conservation Fund, and they are purchasing the buffer parcels. So that's the frontage property that's all ripe and prime for development. And so our goal was to secure that buffer property through these acquisitions. So they are doing that, and then in turn, through the process, the city will purchase that property from them. And then when reclamation has been complete and been signed off by the state, the city could potentially then take the Pikeview quarry as a donation to our overall acreage in that area. And so that is what we're currently working on. It's made it through its first step. It's got many more steps to go, but it made through the TOPS working committee just last Wednesday, and will go on to Parks Board this Thursday. And so we're really, really proud of the work that's come together on this. It's really going to tie in very nicely with all of our other acquisitions, especially on that north end. But what it doesn't do, and I think you asked this question about that backdrop. What does that mean, and what does that look like going forward? Again, the city won't take any possession of that unless it's signed off by the state Board of Reclamation. So that's the only time we'll do that. However, if you've been aware, we do have a master plan that we work with the owners on for that site to turn that into a downhill mountain bike facility. And that again was identified through the community as part of our park system master plan. So we've had a lot of partners that have been really interested and excited about that final plan. Will that plan happen in the next year? Absolutely not. The reclamation plan itself is somewhere between a 5 to 10 year process to go forward with, but we're really excited about the opportunity this has to really clean up that backdrop and make it something spectacular for our community. So more to come on that, but hopefully that answers those questions. It is a big acquisition for us, similar to some of the things we've been doing out east. So it's kind of fun to do something out west on the west side of our community as well, and really preserve that backdrop and make it something really special.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Tim, you were asked in that question if you had anything to add to it.
No, honestly, the county's not terribly involved in that overall project, and Karen did a great job of the overview. So best of luck, Karen.
Sounds exciting, all that is.
It really is.
We are about to come to a close. I'm going to ask, there's one more person who has a question. If there are others who have a question, please tell me soon, because we'll come to a close very shortly. Judith, you wanted to follow up with Tim and with Karen.
Well, it's the third one. So back in the day when I came back to Colorado Springs, we had the El Paso Community College. And the El Paso Community College in the early days of PPCC had a horticulture program. And it occurs to me with the growth in edible gardening, with the need for arborists, with a really important need for people to learn about water-wise landscaping, that's a program that we would definitely benefit from. And I've been talking to the local nurseries and they all agree, and they've all promised that this fall they will write support letters because PPCC doesn't consider programs unless they think their graduates can find employment. But with the growth of the city and with those issues becoming more and more important, I think that will be easy to do. So my question to both of you, Tim and Karen, is would you support and even write letters of support to Pikes Peak Community College, saying that from the parks viewpoint, you can see that as having definite positive impact on our community because of those programs? The arborists, the orchards, the edible gardening, the water-wise gardening, et cetera.
From my standpoint, certainly be happy to write a letter of support. One of the other hats I wear for the county is overseeing the CSU extension program. And we have a half-time horticultural person there. We'd love to make full-time at some point. And so she's certainly very involved in everything Judith just described. And I think, involving her in this process as we go forward, I think would be very helpful for the CSU extension program, but also the community as a whole. I think she'd be a great resource. So if you'd like to, communicate with me directly, I'd be happy to have you two kind of hook up and kind of talk about it as well. I'm sure she'd be happy to weigh in on that.
Thanks.
Judith, I'm happy to write a letter in support of that. That would be a wonderful addition to our community, to be able to have those folks educated, informed, and ready to come out into the workforce with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. And I think Will Crow had a question.
It was answered. Thank you.
Oh, where's your critter? Where'd he go?
He's on break right now.
He's not going to break. Is that your coworker?
Yes.
Very good.
Well, thank you all. There's one thing I wanted to, I wanted to ask Richard Strasbaugh if he had anything he wanted to ask her to say before we close.
I just want to thank you both for being here and explaining the programs and the projects. It's kind of tough right now with budget uncertainty. I think folks are maybe concerned or curious as to what priorities are and what you all are doing during this time. So thank you for answering these questions, and thanks again for supporting CONO.
And
Richard.
I'm going to add that for those of you who aren't that familiar with the Council of Neighbors and Organizations, that back in the days when I was actually working for it full time, I used to say that there were three things besides neighborhoods in particular that the council and its members were very concerned about. One of those is public safety. Another is infrastructure, especially streets and sidewalks. And this is not in any particular order. But the third is definitely parks. And I guess I would add also schools, but there are a couple things that make a neighborhood. And one of them is the park that's near it or in it. And I hope that those of you who are concerned about the health of parks and about how we move forward in trying times or even in good times will keep in mind that the Council of Neighbors and Organizations and Richard Strasbaugh is an organization and a leader that you ought to turn to if you're looking for allies. And I know that Karen and Tim know that. We've worked together on a number of projects, some of which we haven't played that public a role in, but it is important to neighborhoods, and I think you'd find us willing and perhaps helpful partner in issues that you're concerned about. Having said all that, I'm going to say thank you very much for having been a part of this. There are 5 videos now available through our website. One on how you use Zoom to run a meeting, one on some really innovative ways of creating or keeping community. Mary Beth Triba, who's been a participant in this, was a speaker in that, how you create community at a distance. And some wonderful discussion came out of that. And then 3 on various aspects of city and county government. And we will have probably one of these a week on average from now on until who knows when. Our next one is a week from tomorrow, Tuesday, May 19th at 10 o'clock. Sheriff Elder and Police Chief Niski will be on hand to talk about maybe not as much fun as Parks has been, but nonetheless very interesting. And both, at least in my experience, have been big supporters of community. So I urge you to take part in that, or to tell people that you know that this would be worth participating in.
Thank you.
And then the other thing is, please follow us to keep on top of what we're doing, not just with regard to these Zoom webcasts, but also to everything else that CONO is doing. Please follow us on Facebook, or go to our website, www.cscono.org, and sign up for the email newsletter that's sent out sometimes more than once a week. On that note, thank you all for being here. I will stick around in case there is a question that any of you have. I should have introduced Stephanie Search, who's a brand new member of the CONO staff. She just waved her hand. Why don't you do it again, Stephanie? And we're glad to have her on board. I'm sure you'll hear and see a lot more of her in the very near future. Thank you all again. As I said, I will stay on the air, so to speak, until you've all signed off, just in case if you have a question, you will have an opportunity to ask it of me. Thanks again. I'll look forward to seeing you a week from tomorrow.
David, thank you very much.
Everybody.
Great pleasure.
You guys did a great job. Thank you.